The first time Adrian Valenti chose Emma Clark, the whole ballroom went silent. Not because Emma was the most beautiful woman at the Manhattan Charity Ball. Not because she wore diamonds, owned a penthouse, owned, or carried one of those last names that opened doors before a person even knocked. Emma wore a midnight blue dress she had rented 3 days earlier, with money she should have spent repairing the oven at her bakery in Queens. The hem brushed her ankles when she walked. The sleeves covered the soft part of her arms she had spent most of her life being told to hide. Her hair was pinned with trembling hands. And beneath the warm glitter of the chandeliers, she looked like someone who had accidentally stepped into the wrong story. That was exactly why her sister had invited her. Celeste Clark stood at the center of the ballroom like Manhattan had been built to frame her. Tall, too. Thin. Perfect. Wrapped in silver, silk, and old money confidence. She held a champagne flute between two manicured fingers and smiled the way some women smiled before they cut. Around her gathered donors, politicians, models, heirs, men in tuxedos, women in jewels, all pretending they were there to save children through the Angel House Foundation. Emma knew better. She had baked 600 miniature pastries for this event at half her normal rate because Celeste had asked in a voice sweet enough to sound like forgiveness. Think of it as exposure. Celeste had said. Emma should have known exposure was exactly what her sister wanted. Across the ballroom, a string quartet played beneath a canopy of white roses. Waiters carried crystal trays through the crowd. Cameras flashed beside the donor wall. Every inch of the room smelled like money, perfume, and polished lies. Emma tried to remain invisible. She stood near the dessert table, hands folded, watching strangers eat the pastries she had made before sunrise. Raspberry tarts, almond cream puffs, dark chocolate eclairs dusted with gold. No one knew she had made them. No one looked at her long enough to ask. Then Celeste touched her shoulder. "There you are," her sister said, smiling for the room. Hiding by the food, of course. Several women laughed softly. Emma's body went still. "Celeste," she whispered. "Please don't." But Celeste was already turning her toward the crowd. "Everyone, this is my little sister, Emma. She owns a tiny bakery in Queens." Her smile widened. Very charming. Very honest. A man beside her chuckled into his drink. Emma felt heat crawl up her neck. "I was just leaving." Leaving Celeste's voice rang louder. "Before the first dance, don't be rude." The women near her exchanged amused looks. Celeste leaned close enough that only Emma should have heard her next words. But she made sure everyone did. "Though I suppose we both know, no man here is waiting to ask you." The laughter came in waves. Quiet at first, polite. Then sharper. Emma's fingers clenched around the small satin purse she had borrowed from an employee. Her heartbeat pounded beneath the music. Celeste tilted her head. Eyes bright with pleasure. "No man would ever choose you," she said, clear as broken glass. The words did not shock Emma. That was the worst part. They landed in a place already bruised. Emma had heard versions of them since childhood. From boys at school, from her mother's wealthy friends, from customers who assumed a plus-size woman behind a bakery counter must be lonely, desperate, and grateful for any attention. She had built a life out of pretending words could not hurt her if she kept working. But there, beneath 1,000 chandelier lights, with cameras flashing and hundreds of strangers watching, something inside her cracked. She did not cry. She would not give Celeste that. Emma lifted her chin, turned carefully, and began walking toward the exit. The ballroom doors looked impossibly far away. Then the music changed. Not stopped. Changed. The quartet faltered. One violin note stretching thin as wire. A ripple moved through the guests. Heads turned toward the top of the marble staircase. Adrian Valenti had arrived. Even people who had never met him knew to fear him. He wore a black tuxedo like armor. No smile. No softness. No wasted movement. His dark hair was combed back from a face too controlled to be called handsome in any ordinary way. There was a scar near his jaw, barely visible beneath the light, and tattoos disappearing beneath the cuffs of his white shirt. Two men followed him at a distance. Not bodyguards, Emma realized. Weapons in human form. The room adjusted itself around him. Conversations died. Men straightened. Women looked away too quickly. The mayor stopped mid-sentence. Even Celeste's smile tightened. At the foot of the staircase stood Isabella Rinaldi, Adrian's fiancée. Everyone knew her too. The daughter of Marco Rinaldi. Elegant. Dangerous. Beautiful enough to make cruelty look expensive. Tonight, she wore red silk and diamonds at her throat, waiting with one gloved hand extended as if the first dance already belonged to her. Adrian descended the stairs. His gaze moved across the ballroom with cold precision. Past Isabella, past the mayor, past Celeste. Then it stopped on Emma. Emma forgot to breathe. For one impossible second, she felt as if the entire room had vanished and only his eyes remained dark. Unreadable. Fixed on her, with a focus that felt almost violent. Isabella's hand remained in the air. Adrian did not take it. Instead, he crossed the ballroom. People moved aside without being asked. Emma took one step back. His eyes did not leave hers. Celeste's face drained of color. Adrian, she said lightly. Trying to reclaim the moment, he ignored her. He stopped in front of Emma. Up close. He was taller than she expected. Calder. More real than the whispered stories. He smelled faintly of smoke. Rain. And expensive cologne. His presence made the air around her feel dangerous. Emma's voice barely worked. Mr. Valenti Adrian. He corrected. The room heard him. His hand lifted. Palm open. Dance with me. Behind him. Isabella's expression hardened. Celeste made a small sound of disbelief. You can't be serious. Adrian did not look at her. Emma stared at his hand. It was not a gentle hand. There were scars across the knuckles, a signet ring on one finger. Power resting in every line. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Something shifted in his eyes. I know. That was what made it terrifying. He was not rescuing her because the room demanded it. He was not being polite. He was not performing kindness. He was choosing. Emma placed her hand in his. The ballroom inhaled. Adrian's fingers closed around hers. Warm and steady. And led her onto the floor. The first notes of a waltz returned cautiously, as if the musicians feared what would happen if they did not play. Emma's body moved on instinct, though her mind screamed that she did not belong in his arms. His hand settled at her waist, not low. Not possessive enough for scandal, but firm enough that she felt the strength in him. Look at me, he said quietly. I'm trying not to step on you. You won't. You don't know that. I know more than people think. Her eyes lifted. He was watching her with an intensity that made her feel seen in a way she was not prepared for. Not measured. Not mocked. Not compared to Celeste. Seen. Around them. The guests whispered. Emma caught fragments. Is he humiliating Isabella? Who is she? Celeste's sister. Did Valenti just choose the baker? Her face burned. Adrian's thumb shifted once against her hand. Barely a touch. Almost nothing. But Emma felt it everywhere. Why are you doing this? She asked. His gaze moved briefly over her shoulder. Because your sister is a liar? Emma swallowed. About what? About men not choosing you. The words should have comforted her. Instead, they frightened her. Because Adrian Valenti did not sound like a man offering flattery. He sounded like a man issuing a warning. The music carried them beneath the chandeliers. Emma became aware of Isabella watching from the edge of the floor, eyes cold enough to cut crystal. Celeste stood beside her, whispering urgently. Adrian leaned closer, his mouth near Emma's ear. "Do not react," he murmured. Emma's heart kicked. To what? The man near the champagne tower. Her eyes tried to move. His grip tightened. "Do not look." Her breath caught. Adrian turned her slowly, guiding her through the waltz as if nothing had changed. His body blocked hers from part of the room. "What's happening?" she whispered. "Someone came here with a gun." Emma's blood turned cold. "For you?" she asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. "No." The next sound split the ballroom open. A sharp crack. The champagne tower exploded. Glass and gold liquid burst across the marble. Guests screamed. The music collapsed into chaos. Emma flinched. But Adrian was already moving. He pulled her hard against him, turning his body around hers as another shot struck the chandelier above them. Crystal rained down like ice. Adrian's arm locked over her shoulders, shielding her as people ran. His men surged through the crowd. Someone shouted. A woman fell. Cameras flashed wildly. Emma saw Celeste drop behind a table. She saw Isabella standing too still. Then Adrian's hand cupped the back of Emma's head and forced her face against his chest. "Stay down," he ordered. "I can walk." She gasped. "I didn't ask." He moved her through the chaos with terrifying calm. One arm around her, the other reaching inside his jacket. She glimpsed black metal in his hand, then looked away before fear could swallow her. A side door opened. His men formed a wall. Adrian pulled her into a dark corridor just as the ballroom erupted behind them. Emma stumbled against the wall, shaking. "Why would someone shoot at me?" she demanded. Adrian turned toward her. For the first time, something like uncertainty passed across his face. "That," he said, "is what I intend to find out." Outside, Manhattan rain hammered the pavement. Black SUVs were already waiting. Emma should have run. She should have screamed. Instead, she stood in a dark hotel corridor with a mafia boss's blood on his cuff from where falling glass had cut him, and watched him look at her as if the insult in that ballroom had awakened something more dangerous than pity. "Emma Clark," he said softly, as if testing her name. Her body went cold. "I never told you my name." His eyes held hers. "No," he said, "you didn't." And before she could ask how he knew it, Adrian Valenti opened the SUV door and pulled her into his world. The city blurred behind black-tinted glass. Emma sat rigid in the back seat of the SUV, wet dress clinging to her knees. Adrian beside her like a storm given human shape. One of his men drove. Another spoke quietly into a phone in a language Emma did not understand. Sirens wailed somewhere behind them. But no police car followed. Of course, none followed. Men like Adrian Valenti did not get chased through Manhattan unless they allowed it. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "Take me home." "No." Her head snapped toward him. "Excuse me." His eyes remained on the window. "Whoever fired that shot used your invitation code to enter the building. My invitation came from Celeste." "I know." "Then talk to her." "I will." The way he said it made Emma's stomach tighten. "She's my sister," Emma said. His gaze shifted. "Does that mean she loves you?" The question hit too cleanly. Emma looked away. Rain streaked the glass, turning city lights into bleeding ribbons of red and gold. Her phone vibrated inside her purse. She pulled it out with trembling fingers. 23 messages. 3 from her bakery manager, Rosa. 6 from unknown numbers. The rest from Celeste. Don't say anything. This is your fault. Do you understand what you've done? Answer me. Emma stared until the words blurred. Adrian reached over and took the phone from her hand. Hey, he read the messages without apology. Anger flickered in his face. Gone almost instantly. She always talks to you like this. Emma reached for the phone. That is none of your business. He held it just out of reach. It became my business when she used you as bait. I'm not bait. No. His voice lowered. You're the target. Silence closed around them. Emma felt the SUV turn, passing away from the bright center of Manhattan into narrower streets, then toward a private underground entrance beneath a glass tower. Where are you taking me, my penthouse? No. Yes. I said, take me home. And I said no. Her fear sparked into anger. You don't own me. Mr. Valenti. His eyes moved over her face slowly. Not with amusement. Not with desire exactly. But with something sharper. Interest. Fascination. No. He said. But tonight, I may be the only reason you're alive. The SUV stopped. His men stepped out first. Adrian opened the door himself and offered his hand again. Emma looked at it. The first time she had taken that hand, the world had exploded. I can walk, she said. I know. He left his hand there anyway. She ignored it and climbed out. A private elevator carried them up through the tower in silence. Emma stood as far from him as the mirrored walls allowed, painfully aware of her reflection beside his, her soft body in a rented dress, his black tuxedo, her smudged eyeliner, his calm violence. They did not belong in the same frame. At the penthouse level, the doors opened into a world made of dark glass, marble, and quiet power. Manhattan glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows. The rain turned the skyline silver. Somewhere below, people were probably still screaming inside the hotel ballroom. Here, it was silent. Too silent. A woman in a black suit appeared, carrying a medical kit. Leave it, Adrian said. The woman placed it on the table and disappeared. Emma watched him remove his cufflinks, then roll back his sleeve. The cut on his wrist was deeper than she had realized. Blood slid down toward his palm. You're hurt, she said before she could stop herself. His eyes lifted. It's glass. You should clean it. I've had worse. I didn't ask. The corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. Emma grabbed the medical kit, snapped it open, and pulled out gauze with more force than necessary. Adrian watched her. You own a bakery, he said. And apparently I do emergency medicine now too. You're angry. I was humiliated in front of hundreds of people. Shot at. Kidnapped into a penthouse. And told I'm a target. Yes, Adrian. I'm angry. His name left her mouth before she could stop it. The air changed. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Emma took his wrist and began cleaning the cut. His skin was warm beneath her fingers. He did not flinch. Not once. But his gaze stayed on her face with a focus that made each breath harder than the last. You should be afraid, he said. I am. You don't act like it. I run a bakery in Queens. I've survived rent increases, health inspectors, drunk bachelor parties, and my sister. Fear isn't new. This time, his mouth did curve. Barely. It vanished as quickly as it came. Emma wrapped the bandage around his wrist. Why did you know my name? She asked. Adrian looked down at her hand on his skin. Your bakery supplied the desserts. A lot of vendors supplied things tonight. Your invoice was flagged. Flagged by who? His silence answered enough. Emma stepped back. You investigated me. I investigated the charity. Why? Because Angel House is laundering money for the Rinaldi family. The room seemed to tilt. Emma thought of the donor wall, the speeches, the photos of smiling children beside million-dollar pledges. No, she said. Celeste runs their donor events. Yes, my sister is many things, but she's not. Careful, Adrian said. Emma's eyes flashed. Don't tell me how to speak about my own family. I'm telling you not to defend someone who may have just tried to kill you. The words struck too hard. Emma turned away from him, gripping the edge of the table. Celeste was cruel, jealous, manipulative. But murder, no. Emma could not make that truth fit inside her chest. Adrian's phone buzzed. He answered without looking away from her. Yes. A pause. His expression hardened. Send it. He ended the call. What Emma asked. Adrian picked up a remote and turned on the wall screen. A security image appeared. Emma saw herself in the ballroom, standing near the dessert table. Then Celeste besieged her. Then, in the background, a man in a waiter's jacket lifting something beneath a folded napkin. The image froze. A red targeting dot rested near Emma's shoulder. Emma's breath disappeared. Adrian paused the footage and zoomed in. The shooter had not been aiming at him. He had been aiming at her. Emma backed away until her legs hit the couch. That doesn't make sense. No, Adrian said softly. It makes someone desperate. The screen changed to another image. A document. An invoice from Emma's bakery. Except the total was wrong. $750,000. Emma started. That's not mine. It has your signature. I never signed that. I believe you. The answer came too fast. Emma looked at him. You do. Adrian's face was unreadable. A woman who works 18 hours a day for honest money does not suddenly launder $750,000 through eclairs. Something inside her chest softened despite herself. Then he added, but whoever forged this wanted the blame to fall on you, Emma whispered. Celeste. Adrian said nothing. He did not need to. Outside the windows, lightning flashed over Manhattan. Emma looked at the city and understood with a sickening clarity that her ordinary life had ended inside that ballroom. By sunrise, the scandal had already begun. The first headline called her Adrian Valenti's mystery woman. The second called her the baker who destroyed a Mafia engagement. The third was worse. Curvy Queens, baker steals Valenti from billionaire fiancé at charity ball shooting. Emma stood barefoot in Adrian's kitchen, wrapped in a cashmere robe his housekeeper had given her because her dress was being cleaned. She stared at the tablet on the counter while anger and nausea twisted together inside her. I didn't steal anyone, she said. Adrian stood near the window on a call, speaking quietly. He had changed into a black shirt and dark trousers. The bandage she had wrapped around his wrist was still there. His eyes moved to her. People rarely care what happened, he said after ending the call. They care what story sells. My customers will see this. They already have. Emma reached for her phone. Adrian caught her wrist. The contact was sudden. Not painful, not rough, but absolute. Your bakery is being watched. My employees are safe. I sought men. Her anger returned. You sent armed men to my bakery, yes. You can't just put guards outside my business. I can... No, you can't. He leaned closer. Emma's pulse betrayed her. Emma, he said, voice low. There are men in this city who cut brake lines to send messages. Men who burn buildings because a woman saw the wrong signature. Men who would put a bullet through your window and sleep well afterward. So yes, I can put guards outside your bakery. She hated that his calm made her fear more real. She pulled her wrist free. And what do you want from me? His eyes narrowed slightly. For now you stay alive. For now a knock sounded. One of his men entered. Isabella Rinaldi is downstairs. Adrian's expression did not change. Emma felt something ugly and unexpected tighten in her chest. Jealousy. She despised it immediately. Your fiancé, she said. Political arrangement. That usually still comes with a ring. It came with a war. Before Emma could answer, the elevator doors opened. Isabella entered as if the penthouse belonged to her. Her red dress from the night before was gone, replaced by white silk and diamonds that looked cold against her skin. She glanced at Emma in the robe, then smiled without warmth. How intimate. Emma crossed her arms over herself. Adrian did not move toward Isabella. You shouldn't be here, he said. I could say the same to her. She was shot at because you made a spectacle of her. Isabella's eyes sharpened. You humiliated me in front of every family that matters. Adrian's voice stayed calm. Your family launders blood money through a children's charity. Isabella's smile faded. Emma looked between them. There it was. The real ballroom beneath the ballroom. Isabella turned to Emma. Do you think he chose you because you're special? Emma's throat tightened. He chose you because you were useful. Isabella continued. A lonely woman. A public insult. A perfect distraction. And Adrian's jaw went rigid. Leave, he said. But the damage had already landed. Emma turned to him slowly. Is that true? His silence was not long, but it was long enough. Emma stepped back. Adrian's eyes darkened. Emma, no. Her voice shook. Did you ask me to dance because you wanted to protect me? Or because it helped you make a move against them? I saw the shooter after I crossed the room. That's not what I asked. The room went still. Adrian looked like a man who could order death without blinking. Yet for one brief second, he had no answer that would not wound her. Isabella laughed softly. There she is. Finally, understanding the room. Adrian turned his head. Dunt, he said. His man appeared. Escort Miss Rinaldi out. Isabella's eyes flashed. This engagement keeps your ports from burning. No, Adrian said. It kept your father breathing. The silence that followed was lethal. Isabella left with her chin high, but her hands were clenched. Emma waited until the elevator closed. Then she looked at Adrian. You used me. I saved you. Both can be true. His face hardened. But something moved behind his eyes. Regret. Not enough. Emma walked toward the bedroom where her clean dress waited. I'm going home. It isn't safe. I didn't ask you for safe. You think pride will stop a bullet? She turned on him. No. But I know what it feels like to be controlled by someone who calls it love. And I won't trade my sister's cruelty for your protection. Adrian became very still. The words had gone somewhere deep. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. I am not your sister. No, Emma said. You're more dangerous. She expected him to argue. Instead, he said, yes. That honesty nearly broke her anger. Nearly. 2 hours later, Emma returned to Sweet Grace Bakery in Queens with 2 black SUVs behind her. The neighborhood noticed. Of course it noticed. Mrs. Alvarez from the flower shop stared through her window. A delivery driver slowed his van. 2 teenagers on bikes whispered and pointed at the men in black coats standing near the curb. Emma unlocked the bakery door with trembling hands. The familiar smell hit her first. Butter, sugar, yeast, coffee, home. Rosa rushed from behind the counter and threw her arms around her. Girl, I saw the news. I thought you were dead. Emma hugged her hard. I'm fine. Rosa pulled back and looked through the window at Adrian's men. Fine does not come with the funeral committee outside. Emma almost laughed. It hurt. Then she saw the broken lock on the back office door. Her body froze. Rosa. I know. Rosa lowered her voice. Someone came in before dawn. The alarm didn't go off. Emma moved past her into the office. Drawers open. Papers scattered. The framed photo of her mother cracked on the floor. Her old recipe notebook gone. And on the desk sat a white envelope. No. Stamp. No name. Emma opened it. Inside was a photograph of a little girl with dark curls sitting on a school playground. Lily. Emma's knees nearly gave out. Rosa whispered. Oh God. Emma shoved the photo against her chest. No one was supposed to know about Lily. No one. At 7 years old, Lily Clark had Emma's eyes and Celeste's cheekbones. The world knew her as a child, sponsored anonymously through a private guardianship trust. The legal papers said she was the daughter of a former employee who had died in childbirth. Only 3 people knew the truth. Emma, Celeste, and the old nurse who had placed the newborn baby into Emma's arms 6 years ago, begging her to protect the child from the family that wanted her erased. Celeste's daughter. The child Celeste had abandoned so she could marry into wealth without scandal. Emma had raised Lily from the shadows, paying tuition, medical bills, birthdays, books, winter coats, pretending she was only a distant guardian because the court paperwork had been built on lies. She had never regretted it. Now someone had found her. The bell above the bakery door rang. Adrian entered. Emma turned on him with the photograph in her hand. Did you know he looked at the picture? The change in his face was small, but real. No. Don't lie to me. I'm not. His eyes moved to the broken office, the missing files, the photograph, then back to her. Who is she? Emma's fingers curled around the picture. My niece. Adrian stepped closer. Emma stepped back. His expression tightened. But he stopped. Emma, he said carefully, if they sent you that photo, she's part of this now. The words opened a black hole beneath her. No. Where is she? I'm not telling you. Then you're handing her to them. Emma slapped him. The bakery went silent. Rosa gasped. Adrian's men outside shifted instantly. But Adrian lifted one hand without looking, and they froze. Emma's palm stung. Adrian slowly turned his face back to hers. There was no anger in his eyes. Only something darker. Fascination. Pine. Want. You don't get to talk about her like she's a piece on your board. Emma whispered. Adrian's voice dropped. Then stop pretending you're the only one trying to protect her. The air between them trembled. For one terrible second, Emma thought he might touch her. His hand lifted slightly, then stopped before reaching her face. He lowered it. Pack what matters, he said. You and the child are coming with me. No. They know she exists. I said no. His eyes burned into hers. You can hate me in a secure house. Emma laughed once. Broken and bitter. That's your solution to everything. Isn't it? Lock it away. Own it. Guard it. If it keeps breathing, yes. The answer should have repulsed her. Instead, it frightened her because she believed him. That night, Adrian Valenti sat outside Emma's apartment in the rain. He did not come upstairs. He did not call. He did not knock. Emma watched from behind the curtain as his black SUV idled. Rain poured over the windshield. His driver stood beneath an umbrella near the curb. But Adrian remained inside, face half-shadowed. Eyes lifted toward her window like he could feel her watching. Rosa had taken the late shift at the bakery. Lily was safe at her boarding school 2 hours away. Guarded secretly by 2 men Emma had not approved but had not dismissed. Emma hated Adrian for that. She hated herself for feeling relieved. Near midnight, her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered without speaking. Celeste's voice slid through the line. You have made a mess of everything. Emma closed her eyes. Did you send the photo? A pause. That child should never have existed. Emma's blood turned to ice. She is your daughter. She is a liability. Emma gripped the phone so hard it hurt. If you touch her, you'll do what? Throw cupcakes at me. Emma looked down at the street. Adrian's SUV was still there. Celeste continued. Voice sharper now. Listen carefully. Adrian Valenti is not protecting you because he cares. He is using you to destroy the Ronaldos. And when he's done, you will be the woman the authorities find holding every forged invoice. You forged my name. You always wanted to be included in my world. Celeste laughed softly. Congratulations. Emma's throat tightened. Why do you hate me this much? Silence. Then Celeste said, because you were loved for being ordinary. I had to be perfect. And Mother still forgave you more. The line went dead. Emma stood shaking in the dark. Then a sound came from the hallway. A soft scrape near her door. Emma turned slowly. The doorknob moved. Her breath stopped. Another scrape. She backed away, reaching blindly for the heavy ceramic lamp on the table. The lock clicked. Before the door could open, the hallway outside exploded with movement. A body hit the wall. Someone shouted. Emma heard Adrian's voice, low and lethal, followed by a crack of violence that made her flinch. The door burst open. Adrian stood there, rain on his black coat, gun in hand, eyes scanning her body before anything else. Are you hurt? Emma could not speak. Behind him, one of his men dragged a masked attacker from the hallway. Adrian stepped inside and closed the door. The apartment suddenly felt too small for him, too full of rain and danger and the terrifying knowledge that he had been right. Emma lowered the lamp. Her hands shook. Adrian saw. His face changed. Not softened. Sharpened. He crossed the room, then stopped inches away, as if remembering her boundary. Emma. The sound of her name in his mouth nearly undid her. She took one step forward and pressed her forehead against his chest. It was not an embrace. Not exactly. It was surrender to the fact that fear had weight. And for one moment, she needed someone stronger to hold it. Adrian did not move. Then his hand rose slowly to the back of her head. He touched her like she was something breakable he had no right to want. You're coming with me now, he said. This time, Emma did not say no. The safe house was not a house. It was a stone mansion hidden beyond iron gates on the storm-dark coast of Long Island. With waves crashing against black rocks below, and armed men posted beneath every balcony. Inside, the halls smelled of cedar, old books, and smoke. Cameras watched every entrance. Fireplaces burned in rooms too beautiful to feel warm. Lily arrived before dawn. Emma met the car in the courtyard barefoot, coat thrown over her nightgown, heart pounding so hard she could barely stand. The little girl ran into her arms. Emma dropped to her knees and held her so tightly Lily squeaked. I'm sorry, Emma whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry. Lily pulled back, wide-eyed. Why are there so many scary men? Emma tried to smile. They're just security. Lily looked over Emma's shoulder. Adrian stood several feet away, hands in his coat pockets. Unreadable. Is he the scariest one? Lily whispered loudly. For the first time, Emma saw Adrian Valenti startled. Only a little. Yes, Emma said before she could stop herself. Lily considered him seriously. Then she walked up to Adrian and held out one small hand. I'm Lily. Don't scare Aunt Emma. The courtyard went silent. Adrian looked down at the tiny hand. His men stared, as if the child had pointed a weapon at him. Slowly, Adrian crouched, bringing himself to Lily's height. He did not take her hand immediately. His expression remained controlled, but something in him shifted. "I'll try," he said. Lily narrowed her eyes. "Trying is not promising." Emma covered her mouth. Adrian's gaze flicked to her, and for half a second, the darkness between them became something almost alive. Then he took Lily's hand carefully. "I promise." Emma looked away first. She had to, because wanting to believe a man like Adrian Valenti was the most dangerous thing she had ever done. Forced proximity did not feel romantic at first. It felt like war. Emma and Lily lived in the East Wing. Adrian slept somewhere on the other side of the mansion, though Emma suspected he rarely slept. Men came and went at all hours. Phones rang behind closed doors. Names floated through the halls like threats. Rinaldi, Celeste, the harbor contracts, the inheritance clause, the missing ledger. Emma learned pieces, never the whole shape. Adrian's father had left behind control of 3 shipping ports, 2 political alliances, and enough legitimate wealth to make the criminal part look like a rumor. But the Valenti inheritance was tied to an old council agreement. Adrian had to secure peace with the rival Rinaldi family or risk the ports being contested in court and seized through shell companies. Isabella Rinaldi was supposed to be peace. Adrian had agreed to the engagement not because he wanted her, but because he suspected her family had murdered his father and was using Angel House to move money through charity fronts. Emma's bakery had been added to the laundering chain 6 months ago. Her signature forged. Her tax ID stolen. Her sister involved. "You were never supposed to attend the ball," Adrian told Emma one night in the mansion library. "Your name was on paper, not on the guest list." Emma sat across from him, a cup of untouched tea in her hands. Rain lashed the windows. Lily slept upstairs with a guard posted outside her room. "Celeste insisted I come," Emma said. Adrian's eyes darkened. "Because if the investigation closed in, you would look guilty." Emma pressed a hand to her stomach. "She wanted me ruined. She wanted you disposable." The words were brutal, but they fit. Emma stared into the fire. "And you, what did you want that night?" Adrian did not answer. She looked at him. "What did you want?" Adrian, his jaw tightened. "To expose them. And when you asked me to dance," his eyes held hers, "to stop the room from laughing." The simplicity of it hit her harder than any confession. She looked away. He rose and crossed toward the window, putting distance between them, like distance was discipline. "I have done many things for strategy," he said. "That was not one of them." The fire cracked softly. Emma's heart beat too loudly. "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because wanting something makes a man careless." She turned back. His reflection stared at her from the dark window. "And you can't be careless," she said. "No." With me, his silence said too much. The next morning, the world learned Adrian Valenti had chosen Emma Clark again. This time, officially. A photograph appeared on every gossip site in New York, Adrian leaving Emma's bakery with his hand at her back. Black SUVs behind them. His men blocking cameras. The headlines screamed that the Mafia prince had abandoned Isabella Rinaldi for a plus-size baker from Queens. Emma found Adrian in his office and threw the tablet onto his desk. "What is this?" He looked at the headline. "Protection. It says I'm your mistress. It says you're mine." The words struck the room like a match. Emma went still. Adrian's eyes lifted from the screen. Something dangerous passed between them. "Careful," she whispered. His voice lowered. "I am being careful." "No. You're being possessive." "Yes." She should have stepped back. She did not. He stood. The office seemed to shrink around him. "I don't belong to you," she said. I know. Do you? His gaze moved to her mouth, then back to her eyes. No, he said quietly, but I'm trying. The honesty was devastating. Emma's breath caught. He moved closer, slowly enough that she could leave. She did not. His hand lifted toward her face, stopped just before touching her cheek, then closed into a fist at his side. I should not want you, he said. Emma's voice trembled. Then don't. His eyes burned. I tried. A knock shattered the moment. Adrian stepped back instantly, face cold again. His man entered. We found the bakery ledger. Emma turned, where Adrian asked, Celeste's townhouse. Adrian's expression changed into something merciless. And Celeste gone. On the desk, Emma's phone lit up. A video message. Unknown sender. Emma opened it. Celeste appeared on screen, standing inside an abandoned church, candlelight flickering behind her. Beside her, held by a man Emma did not know, was Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit. Not Lily, just the rabbit. But the message was clear enough to stop Emma's heart. Celeste smiled. Come alone. Emma, or next time. I send something that screams. The video ended. For 1 second. Emma heard nothing. Then Adrian took the phone from her hand. No, he said. Emma looked at him. She's my niece. And this is a trap. I don't care. I do. You don't get to stop me. Yes, Adrian said. Voice like steel. I do. Emma shoved him hard in the chest. He did not move. Move. No. She is a child. And you are exactly what they want. Emma's eyes filled, but her voice stayed sharp. You think because you're afraid of losing control, you get to call it protection. Adrian's face changed. Not much. Enough. I am not afraid of losing control, he said. Emma stepped closer, tears burning hot now. Then what are you afraid of? The silence was absolute. Adrian looked at her as if the answer might destroy them both. You, he said. Emma stopped breathing. His voice dropped lower. I am afraid of you walking into a room I cannot reach. I am afraid of hearing your name from another man's mouth. I am afraid of your blood on my hands because I calculated wrong. His control cracked just enough for her to see the obsession beneath it. I have buried enemies. I have buried friends. I have buried my father. But if they put you in the ground because I failed to protect you, Emma, I will burn this city until there is nothing left to rule. The words should have horrified her. They did. But they also reached the wounded place in her that had spent a lifetime being told no one would ever choose her. Adrian Valenti would choose her too violently, too completely, too dangerously, and that was its own kind of fear. Emma whispered. Then help me save her. He stared at her. Slowly. He nodded. But Celeste had already planned for that. At midnight, while Adrian's men prepared a controlled exchange, Emma received another message. Not from Celeste, from Isabella Rinaldi. He will let the child die before he risks his war. I know where Lily is. A location followed. A private school service entrance. Emma's body went cold. She should have called Adrian. She knew that, but Lily's life had never been a game Emma could trust to men with guns. So she left. She slipped through the servant corridor in the east wing, past a camera she thought was turned away, into a supply garage where a spare car waited with keys inside. She did not know Adrian had taught his entire mansion to watch her. 5 minutes after Emma drove through the gates, Adrian stood in the empty garage with murder in his eyes. Find her, he said. The school service entrance was dark when Emma arrived. Too dark. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. She called Lily's guardian line. No answer. She called again. Nothing. Then her phone rang. Celeste, you always were easy to move, her sister said. Emma closed her eyes. You don't have Lily. Celeste laughed. No, Adrian does. That's what makes this perfect. The car door opened. A hand covered Emma's mouth before she could scream. The next time Emma woke, she was inside the abandoned church from the video. Candles lined the aisle. Rain leaked through broken stained glass. Her wrists were tied to the arms of a wooden chair. Her head throbbed. The air smelled like dust and wax and cold stone. Celeste stood before the altar in a white coat, looking almost angelic. Behind her stood Marco Rinaldi, alder, silver-haired, smiling with the patience of a man who had never doubted his power. Isabella leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, watching Emma with contempt. Emma pulled against the ropes. Celeste hid. Don't be dramatic. You tried to kill me. I tried to correct a mistake. Emma's voice shook with fury. Lily, at Adrian's mansion. Perfectly safe. For now, why Marco Rinaldi stepped forward? Because Adrian Valenti has one weakness now. Emma's stomach turned. Me. Unfortunately, Isabella said. Celeste walked closer. You were supposed to take the blame quietly, she said. A forged invoice, a nervous baker, a tragic suicide before trial. Perhaps. Clean. Simple. Emma stared at her sister as if seeing a stranger wearing her face. But Adrian chose you. Celeste continued. Bitterness finally breaking through the polish. In front of everyone. Do you know what that was like? Watching a man like him cross a ballroom for you, Emma's chest ached. Celeste's eyes glittered. I spent my entire life becoming the kind of woman men like that notice. And you still weren't chosen, Emma said softly. Celeste slapped her. Pain burst across Emma's cheek. Isabella smiled. Marco looked bored. Celeste leaned close. Sign the confession. Admit you forged the charity documents. Admit you stole funds through your bakery. Admit you blackmailed me. Emma tasted blood at the corner of her mouth. And if I don't, Marco's smile widened. Then Adrian receives you piece by piece until he gives me the ports. Emma's fear was immediate. Not for herself. For what Adrian would do. For what he would become. Celeste placed a pen in Emma's hand and held the paper against a board. Sign. Emma looked at the confession. Her name at the bottom. Her life reduced to a lie. Then she looked at Celeste. No. Celeste's face twisted. Before she could strike again, the church doors opened. Wind and rain roared down the aisle. Adrian Valenti stood in the doorway. Alone. No army visible. No bodyguards. Just him in a black coat. Rain running from his hair. Eyes fixed on Emma. The relief that hit her was so powerful, it hurt. Then she saw the gun in Marco Rinaldi's hand. No, Emma whispered. Adrian's gaze moved over her face, pausing at the red mark on her cheek. Something inside him went silent, deadly silent. Marco lifted the gun. You came alone. Adrian stepped inside. You asked. I asked for the ports. You can have them. Emma's heart stopped. Celeste blinked. Isabella straightened. Adrian reached into his coat slowly and removed a folder. He threw it onto the wet stone floor. Transfer documents, he said. The harbor shares. The voting rights. Everything your lawyers wanted. Emma stared at him. No. He did not look at her. Marco's smile spread. For her, Adrian's voice was calm. For her, Emma's eyes burned. You can't, she said. Adrian finally looked at her. The whole church seemed to hold its breath. I can rebuild an empire, he said. I cannot rebuild you. The words broke something open in her chest. Marco gestured to one of his men. Who collected the folder? Isabella laughed in disbelief. You stupid bastard. No, Adrian said softly. Just finish pretending. The sound came from outside first. Engines. Dozens of them. Black SUVs surrounded the church. Headlights blasting through broken windows like white fire. Men shouted. Doors slammed. Red and blue lights flashed beyond the rain. Marco's face changed. Adrian looked at him. You should have checked the signatures. Marco opened the folder. Blank pages. At the same time, every screen in the church flickered on old monitors hidden behind the altar. Phones in the hands of Rinaldi men. Tablets lighting up with live footage. Celeste's confession played. Her voice filled the church. You were supposed to take the blame quietly. A forged invoice. A tragic suicide before trial. Emma looked at Adrian. He had recorded everything. No. She realized. Not him. Her. The tiny diamond pin on Emma's dress, the one Adrian's housekeeper had insisted she wear when they left the mansion days ago. She had thought it was borrowed jewelry. It had been a transmitter. Anger and awe collided inside her. You bugged my dress, she shouted. Adrian's eyes did not leave Marco. I protected your dress. This is not the time to be charming. I'm rarely charming. Then everything exploded. Marco fired first. Adrian moved before the sound finished. Diving toward Emma as bullets shattered the wood behind her. He hit the floor beside her, cutting through the ropes with a blade from his sleeve. Men stormed through side doors. Glass rained from the stained windows. Candles toppled. Celeste screamed. Adrian pulled Emma behind a stone column and covered her body with his. His face was inches from hers. Are you hit? No. Stay behind me. I hate that sentence. Survive first. Hate me later. He turned and fired twice into the darkness. Emma covered her ears. Heart slamming. Across the church, Isabella tried to run. Celeste grabbed her arm. The two women fought near the altar. All silk and panic and shattered pride. Marco shouted orders. But his men were already falling back under the pressure of Adrian's people and federal agents pouring in through the broken side entrance. Federal agents. Emma started. Witness protection. The investigation. The charity laundering. Adrian had not just started a mafia war. He had built a courtroom around it. Marco aimed at Emma. Adrian saw. He stepped into the line of fire. The shot cracked through the church. Adrian jerked. Emma screamed. He did not fall. He fired once. Marco's gun skidded across the floor. Adrian sank to one knee. One hand pressed to his side. Emma crawled to him. Terror swallowing everything else. Adrian, I'm fine. You are bleeding. I've had worse. If you say that one more time, I swear to God, he almost smiled. Then his eyes shifted past her. Celeste. Emma turned. Her sister stood near the altar, holding a small pistol with both hands. Her face was ruined with tears and rage. You don't get to win, Celeste whispered. She aimed at Emma. Adrian tried to move. Too slow. Emma stood. Not because she was brave, because she was done being the woman people moved around. Used. Laughed at. Framed. Erased. She faced her sister. Celeste, she said. Her sister's hands trembled. Emma took one step forward. You called me unchosen, Emma said, voice breaking. But Lily chose me every time she ran into my arms. My customers chose me every morning they came back. I chose myself every day you tried to make me feel small. Celeste shook her head, crying harder. And he chose me, Emma whispered. Not because I was perfect, because I was real. That is what you could never forgive. Celeste's face collapsed. For 1 second, Emma saw the sister she had once wanted to love. Then Celeste lifted the gun again. A shot rang out, but not from Celeste. One of Adrian's men fired, striking the weapon from her hand. Celeste screamed and fell as agents swarmed her. Emma turned back to Adrian. He was still on one knee, watching her with an expression she had never seen on his face. Fear. Poor, naked fear. She dropped beside him. "You idiot," she whispered, pressing her hands over his wound. His hand covered hers. "You stood in front of a gun. So did you. I am used to it." "I'm not impressed." His breathing hitched. "You should be." Tears broke over her lashes despite herself. Outside, the rain began to slow. Inside the ruined church, Adrian Valenti looked up at Emma Clark, as if the entire world had narrowed to the space between her heartbeat and his hand. "I chose you in that ballroom," he said, voice rough with pain. "But I think I was yours before I crossed the floor." Emma bent her forehead to his. Around them, men shouted. Agents moved. Celeste cried. The Rinaldi empire collapsed under the weight of its own secrets. But for one stolen second, there was only Adrian's breath against her mouth. Only his hand holding hers to the blood at his side. Only the impossible truth that she had entered a charity ball unwanted and walked out as the one thing a mafia boss feared losing. 3 weeks later, Sweet Grace Bakery reopened. There were still guards across the street. Emma pretended not to see them. The front windows had been replaced. The office had been repaired. The oven Adrian had sent without asking had been returned twice before he finally had the manufacturer deliver it directly through the back wall while Emma was at the hospital visiting him. She had yelled for 20 minutes. He had listened from his hospital bed with the faintest smile and no apology. Celeste was awaiting trial. Marco Rinaldi's empire had fractured overnight. Isabella had vanished into federal custody with enough evidence to bury 3 families and save herself from one. Angel House had been shut down. Its legitimate funds redirected into a new foundation for children whose identities needed protection. Emma insisted the foundation be anonymous. Adrian insisted it be funded properly. Their arguments became famous among his men. Lily loved the bakery most in the early mornings, before customers arrived. When flour dusted, the counters in the city outside was still blue with dawn. She sat at a small table near the window, drawing pictures of cakes, houses, and one extremely tall man with angry eyebrows. "His eyebrows are not that angry," Emma said. Lily looked over at Adrian, who stood near the door in a black coat, speaking quietly to one of his men. "Yes, they are." Emma laughed. Adrian heard. Of course he heard. His eyes moved to her across the bakery. 3 weeks had changed him in visible ways. He still looked dangerous. Still wore black like a warning. Still made powerful men lower their voices. But there was something different in how he stood inside Emma's world now. Less like a conqueror. More like a man waiting to be allowed in. When the last morning tray came out of the oven, Adrian dismissed his men with a glance. Lily was picked up by Rosa for school. The bakery became quiet. Emma wiped powdered sugar from her hands and looked at him. "You scared my customers yesterday." One man was staring at you. He was choosing a muffin. He had been choosing it for 6 minutes. "You timed him, yes." Emma shook her head. But her smile betrayed her. Adrian stepped closer. He moved carefully now. Not because he was weak, but because he had learned the shape of her boundaries and treated them like law. On the counter between them sat a small velvet box. Emma stared at it. "Adrian, it is not a ring." She narrowed her eyes. "That sounds like something a man says before showing a ring." He opened the box. Inside was a key. Brass. Ordinary. Not diamond-covered. Not dramatic. Emma looked up. "What is this?" "The deed to the building is in your name." The apartments above it, the bakery, the storage space, all of it. Her throat tightened. You bought my building, yes, Adrian. And before you throw something at me, I did not give it to you. She stared. I sold it to you, he said. For $1? Rosa witnessed the contract. Your lawyer approved it. There are no conditions. Emma's eyes burned. You impossible man. Yes. You think this fixes everything? No. Good. I think it keeps anyone from raising your rent again. She looked down at the key. For years, Emma had lived as if security was something other women inherited. Something women like Celeste married into. Something Emma could only rent month to month. Praying nothing broke. Now a mafia boss had placed permanence on her counter like an apology he did not know how to say. She picked up the key. Her voice softened. Thank you. Adrian watched her carefully, as if those two words could wound him more than a bullet. Then he held out his hand. Emma looked at it. A memory passed between them. The ballroom. The laughter. Celeste's voice. No man would ever choose you. And Adrian crossing the floor. What are you doing? Emma asked. His face remained serious. Asking you to dance. There's no music. I remember the steps. Emma's heart ached. You're still healing. I've had worse. She gave him a look. He corrected himself. I am healing. Better. His hand waited. This time, no ballroom watched. No sister laughed. No fiancé stood furious in red silk. There were only warm bakery lights. Rain drying on the windows. Flour in the air. And the quiet hum of a city waking up outside. Emma placed her hand in his. Adrian drew her close. Slowly, giving her every chance to step away. She did not. His hand settled at her waist. Hers rested against his shoulder. They moved between the tables, past trays of cooling bread and glass cases filled with pastries, dancing to music. Neither of them needed to hear. Emma looked up at him. Why me? She whispered. Adrian's eyes held hers. This time, there was no strategy in them. No denial. No distance. Because you were the first woman who looked at my darkness and still told me when I was wrong. Her breath caught. And because, he continued, voice lower, in a room full of people pretending to be priceless, you were the only one who couldn't be bought. Emma's eyes filled. You make it very hard to stay mad at you. I can try harder. She laughed softly through her tears. Adrian's hand tightened at her waist. Not claiming, not controlling, holding. Outside. His black SUVs waited at the curb, dark and silent beneath the morning sky. The world beyond the bakery was still dangerous. There would be enemies, trials, headlines, wars that did not end just because two wounded people found each other in the wreckage. But inside Sweet Grace Bakery, Emma Clark was no longer the woman trying to leave quietly before anyone noticed her pain. She was seen, chosen, protected, and loved by a man who had crossed a ballroom, an umpire, and a war to reach her. Adrian bent his head, stopping just before his mouth touched hers, still asking, still waiting. Emma rose on her toes and closed the distance herself. The kiss was not gentle enough to be innocent, not rough enough to be cruel. It was a promise made by two people who understood that love, in their world, would never be simple, but it would be real. When they parted, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Dance with me again tonight, he said. Emma smiled. Ask me like you did the first time. His eyes darkened with memory. Then, in the quiet bakery where no one was laughing anymore, Mafia boss Adrian Valenti held out his hand to the woman the world had underestimated and said the words that had changed both their lives. Emma Clark, He whispered, "Dance with me." And this time, she chose him back.